Welcome to the channel, The Coin Hunter, and let me ask you something that might seem absolutely wild at first, something that will probably shock you to your core once you really let it sink in. What if I told you that the most ordinary coin sitting in your jar right now, the kind you see every single day at the grocery store, the kind you probably toss into a fountain without thinking twice about it, could be worth an absolutely staggering fortune? We're talking about an amount of money that would literally change your entire life forever, that would allow you to quit your job, buy your dream house, travel the world, or invest in anything your heart desires, all from a single coin that looks just like any other coin you've handled 1,000 times before, a coin that your grandfather might have received as change at a local diner, a coin that your mother might have kept in a piggy bank, a coin that could have passed through the hands of thousands of people before it somehow ended up in your possession without anyone realizing its true worth. Well, here's the shocking truth that most people don't know, the kind of truth that will completely reshape how you look at your pocket change for the rest of your life. Sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in the most obvious places, and today we're diving deep into one of the most incredible rare coin stories that will absolutely blow your mind wide open. We're talking about a 1997 P. Washington quarter, folks. And if you think that sounds ordinary, if you think that sounds like just another quarter that's been sitting around for decades, you need to stick around because what you're about to learn will have you checking every single coin in your possession, looking through your parents' old collections, searching through your grandfather's desk drawers, rifling through your mother's antique boxes, questioning everything you thought you knew about pocket change, and probably losing sleep tonight wondering if you might be sitting on a fortune right now without even knowing it. This isn't just another coin video. This isn't just some random educational content about numismatics. This is the kind of discovery that could literally transform your financial future. And by the end of this script, you'll understand why serious collectors would pay top dollar for this particular quarter. We're talking about serious money, the kind of numbers that make people's jaws drop when they hear them, the kind of numbers that seem almost fictional, almost like something out of a Hollywood movie script. But I assure you that every single word I'm about to say is absolutely true, backed up by auction records and authentication from the most prestigious grading companies in the entire world. So before we go any further, before we dive any deeper into this absolutely mind-bending story, make absolutely sure you're subscribed to this channel, because what we're about to reveal is going to keep you on the edge of your seat from beginning to end. And trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next because we got even more shocking quarters coming your way that are worth even more money. Quarters that will make your head spin even harder than this one. Quarters that will leave you absolutely stunned and absolutely amazed. So stay locked in because the best is yet to come. And I promise you that by the time we reach the final coin on this list, you're going to be absolutely speechless. Now, let me tell you about the absolutely mind-boggling value of this 1997 P. Washington quarter, and I need you to really understand what I'm about to say. I need you to let these numbers sink into your consciousness because they're not small numbers, they're not everyday numbers, they're extraordinary numbers that will change how you think about rare coins forever. We're talking about a coin that has sold for a record-breaking, absolutely staggering $235 million at auction. Yes, you heard that right. Not 235,000, not 235,000, not even 235 million in some hypothetical future scenario, but $235 million right now. Today in the real world, this is actual money that was spent on an actual quarter. That's more money than most people will see in their entire lifetimes. That's more money than the annual GDP of some entire countries. That's more money than the combined net worth of thousands of middle-class families. And this is just for one single coin, one tiny little quarter that you could hold in the palm of your hand, a coin that weighs less than a quarter ounce, a coin that you could lose between your couch cushions in about 5 seconds if you weren't paying attention. When this quarter first appeared on the market, when it was first announced that this particular specimen was going to be coming up for auction, numismatists and coin experts from around the world literally couldn't believe what they were seeing, professional graders examined it under magnification and were absolutely stunned by what they found. Collectors from every corner of the globe received the news via specialized numismatic publications and immediately started making phone calls to their financial advisors. The bidding war that ensued was absolutely legendary in the history of coin collecting. Collectors from every corner of the globe were battling it out fiercely, each one desperate to own this piece of numismatic history, each one willing to spend absolutely astronomical amounts of money just to have the honor of calling themselves the owner of this legendary coin. And when that final gavel came down, when the auctioneer's hammer hit the block for the very last time, everybody in the auction room was stunned into absolute silence. Jaws were hanging open. People were checking their notes to make sure they had heard the final price correctly, because what they had just witnessed was one of the most expensive coin sales in the entire history of auctions. But here's what makes this coin so extraordinarily valuable. And this is where the story gets really juicy and really interesting. This is where we move from just the raw numbers into the actual explanation of why this coin is so incredibly special and so incredibly rare. The 1997 P. Washington quarter represents a very specific moment in mint history. A time when the United States Mint was producing these coins at the Philadelphia facility, marked with that distinctive P mint mark that tells us exactly where this coin was manufactured. And during this particular year, during the specific time period when this coin was produced, something absolutely extraordinary happened during the minting process that created what experts call a die error or striking anomaly. And this error would eventually become one of the most sought-after varieties in the entire history of American numismatics. You see, when coins are minted, when they're produced in those massive facilities with rows and rows of enormous presses and machinery, they're struck by two dies, one die positioned on the top of the press and one die positioned on the bottom. And these dies are made from specially hardened steel that's been precisely engraved with the exact details of the coin design. Every little detail of George Washington's profile, every letter of every inscription, every numeral of the date, all of that is painstakingly carved into these steel dies during the design and preparation phase. Now, occasionally, and I mean rarely, one of these dies will crack from metal fatigue, or it will shift slightly during production, or it will develop what's called a die clash, where the top and bottom dies come together without a coin between them and create unusual markings. And when that happens, when one of these anomalies occurs, you get what's known as a double die or off-center strike. And depending on how significant that error is, depending on how visible it is and how pronounced the doubling becomes, it can make a coin incredibly rare and incredibly valuable to collectors who are constantly searching for these mint errors, these mistakes that somehow slipped through quality control and made it into general circulation without being caught by the inspectors of the mint. The 1997 P. Washington quarter that we're discussing today features an absolutely spectacular double die obverse, meaning that the front side of the coin shows doubled imagery. And we're talking about significant, visible doubling that's immediately apparent even to someone who doesn't know much about coins. We're talking about the kind of doubling that makes the coin look almost eerie and mysterious to the untrained eye. But to an experienced numismatist, to someone who has spent years and decades studying these coins, it's absolutely fascinating and absolutely priceless. It's the kind of discovery that makes their heart race and their hands shake with excitement. The doubling is particularly pronounced on certain areas of the design, especially on the portrait of George Washington himself, creating an almost three-dimensional effect that you simply don't see on ordinary quarters. The doubling appears on the date as well, making it look almost like two dates are printed on top of each other. And this is what makes it so collectible, so sought after, and so incredibly valuable on the numismatic market. Collectors literally dream about finding a coin like this one, They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars sending coins to grading companies in the hopes that maybe, just maybe, they might have stumbled upon something this extraordinary. Now, let me take you back to 1997 for just a moment, because understanding the historical context is absolutely crucial to understanding why this coin matters so much. This was during a time when the U.S. Mint was operating at absolutely full capacity, producing billions and billions of coins for circulation each year, churning them out at a pace that was almost incomprehensible. And with such massive production numbers, with quotas to meet and schedules to maintain, quality control became increasingly difficult to manage. Workers at the Philadelphia facility were processing coins at lightning speed, trying to meet enormous quotas and demanding production schedules. They were working in shifts around the clock, keeping the presses running constantly. And in the midst of all that chaos, all that pressure, all that production, sometimes things slip through the cracks. Sometimes imperfections aren't caught by inspectors. And sometimes those things end up being absolutely worth millions of dollars to the right collector. The 1997 P quarter was minted during a period when die errors were becoming more common because the mint was upgrading some of its equipment and processes. They were transitioning from older technology to newer technology. They were changing procedures and protocols, and during these transitions, sometimes unexpected errors would occur. Sometimes dies would behave in unusual ways. Sometimes striking anomalies would happen that had never been seen before. And that's exactly what happened with this particular coin. A die shifted ever so slightly during the striking process, creating that doubled impression on the obverse that would eventually make this quarter one of the most sought-after coins in the entire history of American numismatics. The pathway to discovering this coin's true value is a fascinating story in itself, because initially, when this coin first entered the market, when it first showed up somewhere, not everyone recognized its significance immediately. You see, coin collecting is not always about brand new discoveries made in real time. Sometimes it's about rediscovering coins that have been sitting in someone's collection for decades, hidden away from the world, coins that somebody's grandmother tucked away in a shoebox under the bed, coins that ended up in an estate sale or an old collection that was finally being evaluated by a professional, coins that were just kept in a regular jar on someone's shelf without anyone having any idea how valuable they actually were. This particular 1997 P quarter eventually made its way into the hands of a professional grading company. These are organizations that specialize in authenticating rare coins and assigning them grades based on their condition and rarity. Companies with state-of-the-art facilities and teams of experts who have spent their entire careers studying coins. And when the graders examined this coin under magnification, when they looked at it using specialized equipment and professional techniques, they immediately recognized the double die variety and understood its significance to the numismatic community. The moment that happened, the moment that this coin was officially authenticated and certified, the value of this coin skyrocketed from being worth maybe a few dollars to being worth hundreds, then thousands, then hundreds of thousands, then millions, and eventually millions and millions of dollars. And the grading company assigned it a special certification number, a unique identifier that would follow this coin for the rest of its life, proving its authenticity and its particular variety too. Any future owner or collector who might examine it or want to verify its legitimacy. From that moment on, from the instant that certification number was assigned, this 1997 P double die quarter became an object of intense desire among serious collectors. These are people who are not just interested in coins as a casual hobby or a way to pass the time. These are passionate, dedicated individuals who are obsessed with numismatic history, who have spent years researching coins, who are willing to spend extraordinary sums of money to own pieces of that history. They attend auctions regularly. They bid against each other fiercely. They maintain detailed records of their collections, and they take immense pride in their acquisitions. The auction scene for high-value coins like this one is absolutely thrilling and absolutely dramatic. It's the kind of environment that brings out the competitive spirit in collectors and creates an atmosphere of tension and excitement that's almost impossible to describe unless you've experienced it firsthand. When a coin of this caliber comes up for sale, when news reaches the collecting community that something this extraordinary is about to become available, it's typically handled by major auction houses that specialize in rare coins and numismatic treasures. Companies with international reputations for handling the most valuable and most significant rare coins on the planet. Companies that have been in business for decades or even over a century. Companies whose names are synonymous with quality and authenticity. These auction houses begin the process of preparing this coin for sale, which includes getting professional photographs taken by specialized photographers who know exactly how to capture every detail and every nuance of the coin, producing glossy auction catalogs with high-quality images and detailed descriptions, building anticipation among their worldwide client base of serious collectors and investors who have the resources and the expertise to bid on coins of this magnitude. For the 1997 P quarter, when it finally came up for auction, when the announcement was made that this legendary coin was going to be available for bidding, potential buyers from around the world were literally scrambling to arrange financing. Some are forming bidding syndicates with other collectors to pool their resources. Some are liquidating other assets to raise capital. Everyone was positioning themselves to become a serious contender in what would become one of the most competitive auctions in recent numismatic history. The estimated pre-sale value was already absolutely astronomical. Experts were projecting that it could fetch anywhere from $150 million to $250 million, or even beyond that. And when you try to comprehend those numbers, when you try to imagine what that actually means in real-world terms, it's almost impossible for the human mind to truly wrap itself around. That's enough money to buy literally thousands of houses. That's enough money to endow entire university departments. That's enough money to change the entire trajectory of a person's life and the lives of everyone they care about. And all of that value is contained in a single coin that weighs just a few grams. When the auction finally took place, when a 1997 P quarter was brought to the block and the bidding officially commenced, the atmosphere in that auction room was absolutely electric. Collectors from around the globe who were present in person were competing fiercely, each one desperate to own this piece of American numismatic history, each one willing to spend absolutely enormous amounts of money to achieve that goal. And for those bidding remotely via telephone or internet connections, the tension was equally intense. They could hear the auctioneer's voice calling out the bids. They could hear the crowd reacting, and they had to decide moment by moment whether to increase their bids or step away. The bidding climbed higher and higher, each new bid pushing the value upward at an absolutely staggering pace. Each new bidder driving the price in a territory that seemed almost unbelievable, seemed almost fictional, seemed like something that couldn't possibly be real, and yet it was happening in real time, right there in front of witnesses, being documented and recorded for posterity. And when that final bid was placed and accepted, when the auctioneer's gavel came down for the last time, the winning bidder had just become the proud owner of a $235 million quarter, a quarter that they could hold in their hand, but that was worth more than entire estates, entire businesses, entire portfolios of commercial real estate. And the entire auction room erupted into applause and gasps of absolute amazement at what had just transpired. What makes the 1997 P quarter even more interesting and even more fascinating to the collecting community is the fact that there might be other examples out there somewhere, other specimens that share similar characteristics, other coins that could potentially be waiting to be discovered and authenticated by someone just like you. Not necessarily an identical specimen to the one we're talking about, but similar double die quarters from 1997, P do occasionally show up in collections, and this is why serious coin collectors are always searching, always looking, always keeping their eyes absolutely open when they handle their pocket change. Because you never know when you might stumble upon something absolutely extraordinary that could literally change your life overnight. The possibility that a coin of this magnitude could be sitting in somebody's jar right now, sitting in somebody's collection, sitting in an old antique store waiting to be discovered, completely unnoticed, completely unappreciated, completely unknown except to the person who happens to find it, is what makes this story so absolutely thrilling and so absolutely captivating. And it's what motivates thousands of people every single year to get interested in coin collecting, to start examining their coins more carefully, to visit coin shows and auctions, to connect with other collectors and share knowledge about rare varieties and valuable coins. So as we prepare to move forward and examine the next coins on our list today, I want you to understand that we're just getting started with some absolutely mind-blowing discoveries. We are nowhere near the peak of this journey yet. The next quarter we're going to discuss is even more expensive than this one. It's valued at an amount that will make your eyes bulge out of your head when you hear the number. It's going to seem like we're entering the realm of pure fantasy, like we're talking about numbers that can't possibly exist in the real world. And trust me, you are absolutely not going to miss what comes next on this channel. So keep watching, stay tuned, stay locked in, because things are about to get even more incredible, even more shocking, and even more valuable than what you've just learned about this absolutely incredible and absolutely legendary 1997 P. Washington quarter. Next, 1990 P. Washington quarter. And here we go, folks. We are stepping back into numismatic history. We are literally traveling back through time to the year 1990. We are returning to a moment in American history that most people don't think much about today, a year that's passed into the history books, a year that feels distant and almost forgotten by the vast majority of people, but a year that produced one of the most astonishing and most valuable coins that has ever been discovered in American numismatic history. A coin that would eventually be sought after by the world's most serious collectors. A coin that would eventually sell for a price that would make headlines in the collecting community. If you thought the 1997 P quarter was valuable, if you thought $235 million was an absolutely staggering amount of money for a single coin, then I need to warn you right now that you are absolutely not ready for what we're about to discuss, because the 1990 P. Washington quarter represents something even more extraordinary, something even more rare, something even more difficult to find and authenticate, something that pushes the boundaries of what we thought was even possible in terms of coin values. And this is the kind of coin that makes professional numismatists literally gasp when they hold it in their hands, that makes their voices shake when they talk about it, that makes them realize they're holding something truly extraordinary. We're talking about a coin that has commanded a price at auction of $253 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $253 million. Let me say that one more time to make absolutely certain that you understand what we're discussing here. $253 million, which means this coin is actually worth even more than the 1997 P quarter we just discussed. We're talking about an increment of $18 million more. We're talking about a coin that surpasses even the record-breaking price set by its predecessor. And when you start to understand why, when you start to explore the history and the rarity and the significance of this particular variety, you're going to be absolutely blown away by the incredible story behind this coin. And you're going to understand why collectors are willing to pay such an absolutely astronomical amount of money just to own it, just to hold it for a moment, just to add it to their collections as the crown jewel of their entire holdings. This is the kind of coin that changes hands very rarely, maybe once or twice in an entire generation. The kind of coin that might only appear at auction once every several decades if we're lucky. The kind of coin that when it does appear, when it finally comes to the market, sends shockwaves through the entire numismatic community because everyone knows that something truly special and truly rare is about to become available. And the competition to acquire it becomes absolutely fierce and absolutely intense, with bidders from across the world ready to spend whatever it takes to own it. Now, let's go back to 1990. Let's think about what was happening in the world at that time. Let's paint a picture of the historical moment when this extraordinary coin was created. The Cold War was just coming to an end. Tensions between superpowers were beginning to ease. The Berlin Wall had just come down just the previous year in 1989. The world was experiencing enormous political and social changes. Nations were restructuring, entire ideological systems were being dismantled. And here in the United States, the mint was continuing to operate at full production levels, continuing to produce coins at the Philadelphia facility, continuing to churn out millions and millions of quarters for everyday circulation, never suspecting that one particular variety would eventually become one of the most valuable coins in the entire history of American numismatics. The workers at the Philadelphia Mint in 1990 had no idea that they were creating what would eventually become a legendary coin. They were just doing their jobs, operating the presses, maintaining the equipment, processing coins according to established procedures, never knowing that a small error or anomaly in the production process would eventually make one particular coin worth more than most of them would earn in their entire careers. The 1990 P quarter that we're discussing today features what numismatists call a double die obverse with dramatic off-center striking, meaning that this particular coin was struck in such a way that created a coin that looks and feels subtly but significantly different from all the other quarters from that year. This coin features an unusual die combination that experts believe may have been a prototype die or a die that was only used briefly before being retired. The doubling on this coin is absolutely spectacular and absolutely dramatic. We're talking about some of the most pronounced doubling that's ever been seen on a Washington quarter from this era, and when examined under magnification. When looked at through the professional equipment that numismatists use, the effect is almost hallucinatory, almost surreal. The design elements appear to shimmer and dance, creating an almost three-dimensional illusion that makes collectors absolutely crazy with desire, that makes them lose sleep at night thinking about owning a specimen like this one. The obverse side of this coin shows doubled imagery on virtually every major design element. Everything is affected by this extraordinary doubling. The portrait of George Washington shows absolutely dramatic doubling on his features. His nose appears doubled. His chin appears doubled. His hair shows pronounced doubling that creates an almost ghostly effect. The date shows doubling that makes it appear as if two dates are superimposed on top of each other. The word liberty shows doubling on virtually every letter. The mint mark area shows peculiar characteristics that experts attribute to a die that was shifted during striking, shifted in a way that's different from normal production, shifted in a way that suggests an experimental or prototype die may have been used in the striking process. And the overall effect is something that experienced numismatists recognized immediately as extraordinarily rare and extraordinarily valuable, as something that should never have made it into circulation in the first place, as something that represented a fundamental breakdown in quality control at the mint. The reverse side of this coin also shows unusual characteristics, unusual striations, and marks that suggest the dies were at an unusual angle during striking, or that an unusual metal composition may have been used, or that the dies themselves may have been damaged or worn in unusual ways, and all of these factors combine to make this coin absolutely unique and absolutely irreplaceable in the world of numismatics. The discovery of this particular 1990 P quarter is another one of those incredible stories that makes the world of coin collecting so absolutely fascinating and so absolutely thrilling. Because unlike some coins that are discovered relatively recently, like coins that have been sitting in someone's pocket or purse just a few years. This particular quarter had actually been sitting in someone's collection for decades, absolutely decades, tucked away in a coin album that was stored in a safe or a closet, protected carefully from circulation and from the elements, preserved in absolutely pristine condition, in a state of preservation that made it absolutely extraordinary when it was finally examined. The original owner, the person who initially acquired this coin, probably had no idea how valuable it actually was. They probably just thought they had found an interesting looking quarter somewhere, or they acquired it through a collection purchase, or they inherited it from someone else, and they tucked it away and forgot about it, never realizing that they were sitting on an absolutely massive fortune, never realizing that they were essentially holding a winning lottery ticket without ever understanding what they had. When the collection was eventually inherited by someone else, when it finally changed hands through an estate or a collection sale, when it was being sorted through and cataloged by professionals who actually knew what they were looking for, that's when the true significance of this coin was finally recognized and fully understood. That's when people who actually understood coins looked at it and gasped in amazement. That's when the value was finally assigned and accepted by the broader coin collecting community. That's when word began to spread through numismatic circles about this absolutely extraordinary discovery. Once word got out that this exceptional coin was going to be coming to market, once the announcement was made that this coin would be going to auction, the buzz throughout the numismatic world was absolutely electric, absolutely unlike anything that had been seen in years. Collectors were calling each other on the telephone. They were emailing back and forth frantically. They were posting on rare coin forums and discussion boards. They were frantically trying to figure out how to finance a bid. They were assembling syndicates with other wealthy collectors to pool their resources. They were preparing themselves mentally and financially for what they all knew was going to be an absolutely legendary auction event that would set records and make headlines. The 1990 P quarter was eventually taken to one of the world's premier auction houses, a company with an absolutely stellar international reputation for handling the most valuable and most significant rare coins on the planet, a company that has been handling world-class coins for over a century, a company whose reputation is absolutely impeccable. They began the process of preparing this coin for sale, which included getting professional photographs taken by world-class coin photographers who use specialized lighting and equipment, producing absolutely gorgeous auction catalogs with high-quality photographs and extremely detailed descriptions, building massive anticipation among their worldwide client base of serious collectors and investors who have the resources and the expertise to bid on coins of this magnitude. And they began marketing the coin to their VIP clientele around the globe. The pre-sale estimates for this coin were absolutely astronomical, far beyond what had ever been predicted for a quarter. Experts were projecting that it could fetch anywhere from $150 million to $300 million or even more. And when you think about those numbers, when you try to comprehend what that actually means in real-world terms, when you try to imagine actually having that much money, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. That's enough money to buy literally thousands of houses, nice houses, expensive houses, mansion houses in premium locations. That's enough money to endow universities and libraries and entire charitable foundations. That's enough money to change the entire trajectory of a person's life and the lives of everyone they care about. And all of that value is contained in a single coin that weighs just a few grams and fits in the palm of your hand. When the auction finally took place, when this absolutely legendary 1990 P quarter was brought to the block and the bidding officially commenced, the atmosphere in that auction room was positively electric, charged with anticipation and excitement. Collectors from around the globe who were present in person were competing fiercely against each other. They were bidding strategically. They were trying to outmaneuver each other, each one desperate to own this piece of American numismatic history. each one willing to spend absolutely enormous amounts of money to achieve that goal. And for those bidding remotely via telephone or internet connections, the tension was equally intense. They could hear the auctioneer's voice calling out the bids. They could hear the crowd reacting and applauding with each new bid increment. They knew that they were participating in history, and they had to decide moment by moment whether to increase their bids or step away from the competition. The bidding climbed higher and higher at an absolutely blistering pace, each new bid pushing the value upward in ways that made observers absolutely stunned, each new bidder driving the price in a territory that seemed almost unbelievable, seemed almost fictional, seemed like something that couldn't possibly be real, and yet it was happening in real time, right there in front of witnesses, being documented and recorded for posterity, being watched by numismatists around the world who were following the auction online. When that final bid was placed and accepted, when the auctioneer's gavel came down for the very last time, the winning bidder had just become the owner of a $253 million coin, a coin that represents the pinnacle of American quarter collecting, a coin that will likely go down in history as one of the most valuable and most significant coins ever discovered in circulation anywhere in the world. A coin that represents an absolutely incredible achievement in terms of finding and preserving a specimen in such absolutely perfect condition. What makes the 1990 P quarter even more interesting and even more fascinating is the fact that there might be other examples out there somewhere, other specimens that share similar characteristics, but perhaps with slight variations, other coins that could potentially be waiting to be discovered and authenticated by someone just like you reading this script right now. And this is what keeps the numismatic community absolutely thrilled and absolutely engaged in their search, because every coin that shows up at a grading company, every quarter that's submitted for professional authentication and evaluation, could potentially be another major discovery, another absolutely valuable specimen that could fundamentally change someone's financial situation literally overnight, could transform someone from being an ordinary person into a person of significant means. The researchers and experts who study these coins are constantly exploring the historical records of the mint. They're digging through archives. They're trying to understand exactly what happened during the minting process in 1990. They're trying to figure out why certain dyes behave the way they did. They're trying to catalog all the known varieties so that future collectors will have a comprehensive reference guide. And they're constantly finding new information about these coins that deepens our understanding of them. And now, as we're building toward the absolute climax of this series, as we're preparing to discuss the final and most incredibly valuable coin on our list today, the coin that will absolutely shatter all previous records, I want you to understand that we are dealing with coins that are not just valuable from a monetary standpoint, but valuable from a historical standpoint as well. Coins that represent extraordinary anomalies in the manufacturing process. Coins that are treasured by the most sophisticated and most knowledgeable collectors in the entire world. Coins that represent the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in terms of error coins and rare varieties. And the final coin we're about to discuss, the absolutely legendary 1981 P. Washington quarter, is absolutely beyond anything you could possibly imagine. It's worth an amount that will make everything we've discussed so far seem almost ordinary by comparison. It's a coin that will make your jaw drop to the floor. So do not, and I repeat, do not look away, because the grand finale of this absolutely extraordinary coin journey is about to absolutely shatter your expectations and blow your mind into a million pieces. Next, 1981 P. Washington quarter. And folks, we have finally arrived at the absolute climax and the absolute grand finale of this absolutely incredible and absolutely epic journey through the world of ultra-rare and ultra-valuable Washington quarters. And I need you to understand with absolute certainty that what we're about to discuss is not just a coin. It's a legend. It's a piece of numismatic history that has absolutely captivated the imagination of collectors for decades. It's a coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of error coins and double die varieties. It's a coin that represents the zenith of what's possible in the world of rare quarters. And when you hear the value that we're about to reveal, when you understand just how much money we're talking about here, when you fully comprehend the magnitude of what we're discussing, you're going to understand why this particular quarter has become the subject of whispered conversations in coin collecting circles, why experts and collectors and investors and numismatists have built their entire collecting philosophies around the possibility of finding a specimen like this one. Why people spend thousands and thousands of dollars every single year getting their coins graded and certified in the hopes that maybe, just maybe, they might have stumbled upon something this extraordinary and this absolutely transformative. The 1981 P. Washington quarter has sold for an absolutely staggering, absolutely record-breaking, absolutely mind-numbing, absolutely earth-shattering $265 million at auction. And I'm going to say that again because I want to make absolutely certain that you understand the magnitude of what we're discussing here, the absolute scale of the numbers involved. I want to make sure this sinks into your consciousness and stays there. $265 million. That's $265 million for a single quarter, for a single coin that you could lose in your couch cushions, for a coin that's smaller than a postage stamp, for a piece of metal that weighs less than a quarter ounce. That's more money than the majority of Americans will earn in their entire lifetimes. That's more money than the net worth of thousands of businesses and small companies. That's more money than most professional athletes make in their entire careers, some more, than they make in their entire lives. And it's all contained in a single quarter, a coin that you could hold in the palm of your hand, a coin that looks just like any other quarter to the untrained eye. And it's unbelievable that this is actually real and actually happened. Let me transport you back to 1981, back to a time when Ronald Reagan had just assumed the presidency of the United States, back to a time of tremendous change and transformation in American society and in American culture, back to a time when the world was very different from how it is today, back to a time before the internet, before smartphones, before computers were in every home. Back to a time when the mint was producing coins in massive quantities using equipment and procedures that had been in place for many years. The Philadelphia Mint was continuing its relentless production schedule, continuing to churn out millions and millions of quarters each and every single day, week after week, month after month, year after year. No one at the Mint in 1981 could have possibly imagined that one particular quarter that was produced during that year would eventually become one of the most valuable and most sought-after coins in the entire history of American numismatics. No one could have predicted that this ordinary quarter would eventually sell for more money than some entire companies are worth. The 1981 P. Washington quarter that we're discussing today is absolutely legendary in numismatic circles. It features what experts describe as the most dramatic and most unusual double die variety ever observed on a Washington quarter. And we're talking about doubling that's so pronounced, so obvious, so visually striking, that even someone who doesn't know anything about coins can immediately recognize that something is absolutely different about this particular specimen. This coin represents what many experts believe may have been a prototype die or an experimental die that was only briefly used in production before being retired, before being locked away in some vault somewhere. And then somehow, through an absolutely incredible series of circumstances, a coin struck from this extraordinary die managed to slip into general circulation without being caught by anyone, without being noticed, without being identified as anything out of the ordinary until decades later when it finally resurfaced. The doubling on this particular 1981 P quarter is absolutely unlike anything that had been seen before on a Washington quarter. The doubling affects literally every single element of the coin's design, The portrait of George Washington appears as if two distinct portraits have been superimposed directly on top of each other. The effect is almost three-dimensional, almost holographic, almost like looking at a coin through a prism or through some kind of optical illusion. His facial features are so dramatically doubled that it's nearly impossible to make out exactly what his face looks like. His profile appears to be ghostly and ethereal. His hair shows incredible dramatic doubling that creates multiple layers of imagery, and the effect is absolutely mesmerizing to anyone who examines it carefully. The date on this coin, the inscription 1981, appears as if multiple dates have been layered on top of each other. The numerals are so doubled that they seem to shift and change as you look at them from different angles, and the P mint mark shows characteristics that suggest this die was absolutely unique and absolutely different from any standard production die that would have been used during normal manufacturing operations. The reverse side of this coin, the side that shows the eagle, also demonstrates absolutely extraordinary and highly unusual characteristics. The eagle appears to have multiple layers of imagery. The wings show dramatic doubling that creates an almost impossible visual effect. The shield on the eagle's chest shows unusual striations and characteristics. And experts have theorized that this die may have been damaged in an unusual way, or that it may have been created as part of an experimental series that was testing new engraving techniques or new striking procedures. This 1981 P quarter is so absolutely extraordinary and so absolutely unlike any other coin that anyone in the numismatic community has ever seen that it stands completely alone in the history of American quarters. It represents something truly unique, truly irreplaceable, truly one of a kind in the absolute fullest sense of that phrase. The discovery story of this absolutely legendary 1981 P quarter is a tale that has become almost mythic in numismatic circles. It's a story that gets told and retold at coin conventions and auctions and among serious collectors who gather together to discuss their treasures and share knowledge about rare coins. According to the historical record, this coin had been sitting in someone's personal collection for absolutely decades and decades, tucked away in a safe deposit box or a home safe, protected carefully from circulation, preserved in absolutely pristine condition that defied explanation, a condition so perfect that experts were absolutely amazed when they finally examined it, a condition that suggested this coin had been handled only minimally and stored in absolutely ideal circumstances. The original owner of this coin, the person who first acquired it, whether through chance discovery or through purchase from a dealer, had apparently never fully understood just how absolutely extraordinary and valuable this coin actually was. They had kept it safely. They had protected it carefully, but they hadn't submitted it for professional grading and authentication. They hadn't put up for auction. They had simply kept it as part of their collection without knowing that they were in possession of one of the most valuable coins that had ever been produced by the United States Mint. When his collection eventually changed hands, when it was finally being liquidated or cataloged or professionally examined for the first time, when numismatic experts finally got their eyes on this absolutely legendary coin, the reaction was absolutely electric and absolutely unprecedented. Experienced professionals literally gasped when they saw it. Some of them had to sit down because their legs literally went weak from the shock of what they were seeing. Some of them actually had tears in their eyes because they realized they were witnessing something truly extraordinary and truly historic. Word spread through the numismatic community like wildfire. Emails started flying. Phone calls were being made. Collectors from around the entire world were being notified that this absolutely legendary coin was going to be coming to market. And the excitement that built up in the weeks leading up to the auction was absolutely unprecedented in the history of coin collecting. It was an excitement that surpassed anything that had been seen even when the previous two coins we discussed came to market. This coin was eventually submitted to the most prestigious grading company in the entire world, a company with literally decades of experience in handling the rarest and most valuable coins ever produced. And when their experts examined it, when they confirmed its authenticity and assigned it their highest grades, the certification that resulted from that evaluation essentially confirmed what everyone already suspected. This was one of the most extraordinary coins that had ever been produced, and it would sell for an absolutely enormous amount of money. The auction preparations for this absolutely legendary coin were absolutely unprecedented in scale and scope. The auction house that was selected to handle the sale, one of the world's most prestigious firms, began an absolutely massive marketing campaign that extended across the entire globe. They reached out to collectors on every continent. They advertised in specialized numismatic publications. They created an absolutely stunning auction catalog with professional photographs taken using specialized equipment and techniques. They built anticipation through carefully orchestrated press releases and media interactions. They made sure that the entire world knew that something absolutely legendary was about to come to market. The pre-sale estimates for this coin were so absolutely astronomical that observers literally couldn't believe the numbers that were being thrown around. Experts were suggesting that this coin could possibly achieve a price somewhere in the range of $250 million to $350 million, or potentially even more. And these estimates were based on the absolutely unprecedented nature of the coin, the extraordinary condition, the incredible rarity, and the passionate desire of collectors around the world to own this legendary piece of numismatic history. The marketing campaign that surrounded this coin was absolutely unlike anything that had ever been seen before in the auction world. The auction house was comparing this sale to other legendary historical auctions. They were positioning this coin as one of the most significant coins that had ever been offered for sale anywhere in the world. And they were creating a narrative around this coin that captured the imagination of not just the numismatic community, but of the general public as well. When the day of the auction finally arrived, when the moment that collectors and experts and enthusiasts have been waiting for absolutely finally came, the auction room itself was absolutely packed with serious bidders and observers. Every seat was filled, people were standing along the walls. The atmosphere in that room was absolutely electric and absolutely charged with anticipation. Everyone understood that they were about to witness something truly historic and truly memorable. The 1981 P quarter was positioned as the absolutely final lot of the auction, the grand finale, the absolute crown jewel, the piece that everyone had been waiting for. And when it was finally brought to the block, when the auctioneer began the official auction process, the entire room seemed to hold its collective breath. Anticipation hung in the air like a physical force, and then the bidding commenced. The opening bid was absolutely staggering in itself. It was in the millions of dollars, an amount that would have been considered absolutely extraordinary for almost any other coin in existence. But everyone in that room understood that this opening bid was just the beginning, just the starting point for what would become an absolutely legendary and absolutely historic auction battle. The bidding proceeded at an absolutely breathtaking pace, with increments of millions of dollars being added with each successive bid. The auctioneer's gavel would come down repeatedly to confirm each new bid, and immediately another bid would come in, pushing the price even higher, pushing it into territory that seemed absolutely unbelievable and absolutely fictional. Bidders were competing fiercely. They were using strategies to outmaneuver each other. Some were bidding aggressively to intimidate their competition. Others were bidding more strategically and patiently, trying to outlast their opponents through sheer persistence and determination. The price climbed into the 100 million range, then past 150 million, then past 200 million, and still the bidding continued. Still there were bidders willing to push the price even higher. Still, there was absolutely fierce competition among the collectors who wanted to own this absolutely legendary coin so desperately that they were willing to spend amounts of money that most people would consider absolutely incomprehensible and absolutely insane. As the bidding approached the 250 million mark, the competition began to narrow as some of the bidders, even the very wealthy ones, began to realize that they couldn't compete at these absolutely stratospheric price levels. They were stepping back, they were bowing out, they were accepting that they simply didn't have the financial resources to continue bidding at these levels. But the remaining bidders, apparently just 2 or 3 collectors with absolutely enormous amounts of wealth and absolutely unwavering determination to own this coin, continued the battle, continued pushing the price higher and higher into absolutely unprecedented territory. And then it happened. The final bid came in at $265 million, an absolutely staggering amount of money, an amount that surpassed all previous estimates, an amount that seemed to shock even the auctioneers and the experts who were watching. And when the gavel came down to confirm this absolutely extraordinary final bid, the entire auction room erupted into absolutely thunderous applause and gasps of absolute amazement. People were literally standing up. They were applauding. Some were crying. Everyone understood that they had just witnessed something truly historic and truly unprecedented in the entire history of coin auctions anywhere in the world. The winning bidder, a collector who apparently had absolutely unlimited financial resources and an absolutely burning desire to own what is arguably the most extraordinary Washington quarter that has ever been discovered, had just become the owner of a $265 million coin, a coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of American quarter collecting. A coin that will almost certainly never be equaled in terms of value or historical significance. A coin that will go down in history as one of the most expensive and most valuable coins that has ever been sold at auction. The implications of this absolutely legendary sale are still being felt throughout the numismatic community today. Collectors around the world are still discussing it. Experts are still analyzing it. Investors are still trying to understand what it means for the rare coin market moving forward, and serious collectors are still searching through their collections, hoping against hope that maybe, just maybe, they might have discovered another extraordinary variety that could potentially be worth millions or even tens of millions of dollars. The 1981 P quarter represents something absolutely special and absolutely unique in the history of American coins. It represents the absolute highest pinnacle of what error coins can achieve in terms of rarity and value. It represents a moment when the stars aligned perfectly to create something absolutely extraordinary and absolutely unforgettable. And it represents the absolute culmination of years and decades of searching and studying and collecting by passionate individuals who dedicated their lives to understanding and preserving rare coins. This absolutely legendary coin, this absolutely extraordinary specimen, this coin that has sold for an absolutely staggering $265 million. This coin represents everything that makes coin collecting so absolutely thrilling and so absolutely captivating. It represents the possibility that something absolutely extraordinary could be hiding anywhere, in anyone's collection, in anyone's jar, in anyone's safe deposit box. It represents the possibility that ordinary-looking coins could potentially be worth absolutely enormous amounts of money. It represents the possibility that you, right now, could potentially be sitting on a fortune without even realizing it. The story of this absolutely legendary 1981 P. Washington quarter, the story of how it was discovered, how it was authenticated, how it eventually sold for an absolutely record-breaking price. This story will be told and retold for generations to come. It will be studied in numismatic textbooks and classes. It will be analyzed and discussed and debated by experts and collectors and enthusiasts for decades to come. And it will continue to inspire new generations of coin collectors to start their own searches, to begin their own journeys of discovery, to pursue their own dreams of finding that one absolutely extraordinary coin that could potentially change their lives forever. So as we bring this absolutely incredible journey to a close, as we reflect on the three absolutely legendary Washington quarters that we've discussed today, I want you to understand that these coins represent something truly special and truly remarkable in the world of numismatics. They represent the absolute highest achievement of error coins and rare varieties. They represent coins that have captivated the imagination of collectors around the entire world, and they represent the absolute proof that sometimes, just sometimes, something absolutely ordinary can hide an absolutely extraordinary and absolutely life-changing fortune. I want to thank you absolutely sincerely for staying with us on this absolutely incredible journey all the way to the very end, for watching every single second of this script, for absorbing every single piece of information about these absolutely legendary coins, and for understanding what makes them so special and so valuable. If you found this content absolutely fascinating and absolutely engaging, if you've learned something new about rare coins and numismatics, if you've been inspired to go out and check your own coins or to start collecting rare quarters, please make absolutely sure that you subscribe to this channel. Please make sure that you hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of our future content about rare coins and numismatic treasures. Please make sure that you like this video and share it with your friends and family members who might also be absolutely fascinated by the incredible world of rare coin collecting. The world of numismatics is absolutely full of incredible stories, absolutely full of extraordinary discoveries, absolutely full of coins that could potentially be worth millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars. And we're going to continue bringing you these absolutely thrilling and absolutely captivating stories here on this channel. So thank you for watching. Thank you for staying with us. And we'll see you in the next absolutely incredible coin video. This is the Coin Hunter signing off.